People talk about isolation like it's freedom. Wide land, no noise, no rules, no neighbours watching you. But here's the part no one likes to admit. In some towns, staying is easy. Leaving is the real challenge. At first, it feels peaceful. The quiet feels earned. The distance feels intentional. Then the weather turns. A road washes out. Gas prices jump. A flight gets cancelled. And suddenly, distance isn't poetic anymore. It's pressure. Money runs tighter. Time works against you. And every decision feels heavier because help is far away. That's why isolated towns are trending again. Remote work made it seem possible. Cheap land made it look smart. Off-grid videos made it feel brave. But what social media rarely shows is the logistics. When a medical issue hits, when income slows, when relationships get strained by being cut off from everything else. Isolation doesn't just remove noise, it multiplies risk. This video isn't here to scare you. It's here to prepare you. Before we dive in, hit subscribe to Mr. State Realities, because every week we uncover stories about places, policies and lives most people never notice. Turn on notifications so you don't miss a single guide for anyone thinking about moving, surviving or thriving in remote towns. Today, we're breaking down 10 American towns where isolation shapes daily life in ways most people never expect. Places where geography, weather, money and timing quietly decide whether you can leave or whether you're forced to stay longer than planned. You'll learn who thrives in places like this, who gets trapped without realizing it, and the things real estate listings never warn you about. Because number one on this list isn't just remote. It's the kind of place where smart people plan their exit before they even arrive. Number 10, Terlingua, Texas. Terlingua, Texas doesn't look dangerous at first. It looks free, an old desert town brought back from the dead. No traffic, no noise, no pressure. Just wide-open land, weathered buildings, and a horizon that never seems to end. But the same space that makes Terlingua feel peaceful is what makes it unforgiving. This town sits deep in the desert, far from major highways and even farther from help. The heat presses down during the day, and at night the silence feels almost unreal. There's beauty here, but distance follows you everywhere. Basic services are limited and nothing happens by accident. Groceries require planning. Fuel requires planning. Medical care requires serious planning. If something goes wrong, you're not calling for quick help. You're getting in a car and driving for hours. One newcomer arrived chasing simplicity and freedom. They imagined quiet mornings and creative focus. What they didn't imagine was how fast small problems become serious ones. A broken vehicle, a missed supply run, a minor health issue that suddenly meant a long desert drive, alone under the sun. Leaving Terlingua isn't impossible, but it's never convenient. Every trip out costs money, every errand takes time, and when finances tighten, those long drives start to feel heavier and harder to justify. Terlingua works for extreme minimalists, people who are healthy, prepared, and comfortable with self-reliance. But for families, older adults, or anyone who depends on fast access to services, the isolation adds real risk. So ask yourself honestly, could you live somewhere where basic help is hours away? Ever try some avocado pan? Mistake costs more than you expect. Number 9, Hana, Hawaii. Hana, Hawaii looks like paradise straight out of a postcard. Rain falls in sheets, jungle roads twist through green mountains, and the ocean stretches endlessly on the horizon. At first glance, it feels like the perfect escape. But paradise has a cost, and in Hana, that cost is real and constant. The town is at the very end of the island's road system. There is no quick way out. Every trip off the island requires a flight, and flights aren't cheap. Groceries, fuel, and everyday supplies come from far away, and that distance adds up in both time and money. One family moved to Hana, chasing quiet mornings and a slower pace of life. They imagined fresh fruit every day, ocean breezes, and no rush. What they didn't realize was how expensive everything would be. A loaf of bread costs twice what it does in town, gas runs high, and if a shipment is delayed, even basics can disappear for days. Leaving Hana isn't impossible, but it's not convenient. Every errand off the island takes careful planning. Every unexpected problem costs more than you might think. And when the rain is heavy, roads can become slow and tricky, making simple trips feel like a journey. Hana works for people who have a financial cushion, patience, and a love for remote living. Families on a tight budget or anyone who depends on fast access to services may find themselves trapped by the costs and logistics of island life. So here's the question you need to ask yourself. Is paradise worth permanent high costs, long waits, and planning every little detail of life just to survive? And number 8, Supai, Arizona. Supai, Arizona is the kind of place that makes you rethink what remote really means. No roads, no cars, no drive-up convenience stores. You get there on foot, by mule, or in rare cases, by helicopter. The canyon walls rise all around, and the trail you follow is narrow, winding, and entirely in nature's control. At first, it feels like an adventure. The silence, the vast rock formations, the sunsets, it's breathtaking. But beauty comes with limitations. Supai is geographically trapped, and leaving isn't something you do on a whim. Weather can make the trail dangerous or impassable, and helicopters fly only when conditions allow. One wrong decision and you're stuck longer than expected. A visitor once planned a short week-long trip, imagining hikes and quiet reflection. They ended up staying 2 months. Each day required careful planning for food, water, and safety. Every supply run was an effort, and any emergency became a serious challenge. Living here isn't for everyone. You need respect for the culture, commitment to preparation, and the patience to accept that modern conveniences are mostly absent. And yes, Amazon Prime literally stops at the canyon rim. Supai works for adventurers, people seeking total disconnection, or those who thrive on self-reliance. It's risky for families, older adults, or anyone who needs fast access to services. Leaving requires planning, flexibility, and acceptance of nature's schedule. So think about it. Could you live somewhere where your daily life is dictated by the canyon, the weather, and the occasional mule? Because in Supai, freedom comes with a very clear price. UTQIAÁVIK, also known as Barrow, is America's northernmost town, sitting at the edge of the Arctic Ocean. Here, the world feels frozen in place. During the long polar night, the sun disappears for months, leaving residents in near-constant darkness. Snow and ice dominate the landscape, and the silence is broken only by the wind and occasional wildlife. At first, the isolation seems poetic, a true escape from city life. But the Arctic climate is harsh and unforgiving. Flights are the only way in or out, and they are frequently delayed or cancelled due to storms, heavy snow, or ice. Even when planes do fly, tickets are expensive and supplies are limited. One worker moved here for high wages in specialized jobs. They imagined financial stability and adventure. What they didn't expect was the mental strain of months without sunlight, the logistical hurdles of getting food and fuel, and the constant awareness that leaving is not simple. A doctor's appointment, a broken appliance, or even a simple trip to the store becomes an operation that requires planning, timing, and patience. Living in UTQIAÁVIK works for specialists, scientists, oil workers, government staff, and people trained to thrive in extreme conditions. It is not for casual movers or anyone who expects quick access to hospitals, shopping, or entertainment. The isolation is real, physical, and financial, and it affects every decision you make. Here's a quick question. Could you thrive somewhere where darkness lasts for months? The nearest city is hundreds of miles away, and every flight is a potential gamble. Because in UTQIAÁVIK, surviving the environment is as important as surviving the isolation itself. Number 6. Hanksville, Utah. Hanksville, Utah looks like a dream on a map. Cheap land, open skies, red rock landscapes stretching for miles. It feels like the perfect escape from city noise and crowded streets. But the truth about isolation here hits fast, and it's not always visible at first glance. The town is small, with very few people around. Highways are empty, services are sparse, and everything takes longer than you think. Need groceries? Plan ahead? Need fuel? Better stock up? Need a hospital? That's where the real challenge begins. Medical emergencies in Hanksville are serious. One resident had a minor accident, thinking help was just a short drive away. Hours later, an ambulance arrived from a distant town, and what should have been simple became stressful and dangerous. The remoteness turns even small problems into large ones, and every decision has weight. Leaving isn't impossible, but it's not convenient. Every trip out requires planning, money, and sometimes a backup plan. Weather can make roads tricky, and even routine errands can take hours. Hanksville is ideal for people who are self-reliant, healthy, and prepared for the unexpected. It is risky for families with children, elderly residents, or anyone who might need quick access to services. So here's the question for anyone thinking about life here. Is the solitude, the wide-open space, and the freedom worth the risk of delayed help when things go wrong? Because in Hanksville, living free comes with responsibilities most people don't anticipate. Number 5. Monowi, Nebraska. Monowi, Nebraska is a town like no other, because it has only one official resident. Imagine walking down empty streets, passing a library and a bar, and realizing you are the only person officially keeping the town alive. Silence becomes the soundtrack of your life. Routine becomes your company. Repetition is your daily rhythm. The isolation here isn't just physical, it's deeply emotional. Monowi survived population collapse while surrounding towns emptied. People moved away for jobs, education, or convenience. The one resident stayed behind, not because life here is easy, but because of attachment to a place that holds history, memories, and identity. Leaving Monowi isn't about logistics, it's about choice and emotion. Every shop, every street corner, every memory ties the resident to the town. Even simple acts like running the library or serving visitors in the local bar become acts of dedication to continuity and solitude. One story tells of choosing solitude over connection, finding peace in self-reliance and the rhythm of a nearly empty town. It requires mental strength, patience, and a love for quiet that most people can't imagine. For anyone considering moving here, think carefully. Monowi isn't about escaping society. It's about embracing solitude and the responsibility that comes with it. Mental resilience is not optional. So ask yourself honestly, could you live in a place where your neighbours are memories, the streets are yours alone, and every day is a choice to stay connected to a town no one else calls home? And number 4, Point Roberts, Washington. Point Roberts is a small slice of America that feels like a hidden secret, cut off from the rest of the country by an international border. To get to the rest of Washington state, residents must cross into Canada and then back into the US. What seems like a simple trip down the road suddenly turns into a daily border crossing, with passports, customs checks, and waiting in lines. At first, it's quirky, a town separated by maps, not mountains. But the isolation quickly shows its practical side. Supplies, groceries, and even simple errands depend on international rules. A change in border policy can mean delays, closures, or unexpected costs. One family experienced a supply disruption during a temporary closure and found that even basic items like milk and bread became challenging to obtain. Leaving Point Roberts isn't physically impossible, But it is complicated. You are tied to both countries' rules and regulations, and navigating them takes patience and planning. Even emergency services are impacted by the unique geography and political constraints. For people considering life here, politics matters more than geography. You need awareness of border laws, patience with delays, and acceptance of how international boundaries affect daily life. So here's a thought for you. Could you live in a town where the road out isn't just paved, but controlled by an entirely different country? Where every trip to the store or to visit family feels like crossing a checkpoint? Point Roberts may look charming on a map, but isolation here is governed by rules, not distance. If you've made it this far, congratulations. You're committed to understanding what real isolation feels like. Up next are the top 3 towns, and they aren't just remote. They are full commitment tests. One is locked by weather, one by water, and one disappears seasonally. These last 3 will show you that isolation isn't just a location, it's a lifestyle challenge. In number 3, Tangier Island, Virginia. Tangier Island is like stepping into another time. A small, tight-knit community surrounded by water where traditions have lasted for generations. But this town is slowly disappearing, not from people leaving, but because the land itself is vanishing into the Chesapeake Bay. Rising waters and erosion are eating away at homes, roads, and even cemeteries. At first, it feels idyllic, salt air, fishing boats, and the kind of quiet you can't find in cities. But the isolation here is absolute. You can't drive in or out. Every trip requires a boat or ferry, and schedules are limited. If you need to leave quickly, options are few and weather-dependent. Families who have lived here for decades watch as their homes and histories are literally slipping away. Every decision to stay or go carries emotional weight. People stay because it's home, because of culture, because of ancestry. And that's what makes leaving so difficult. It's not just logistics, it's loyalty, identity, and belonging. Practical advice for anyone considering life here. Understand the long-term viability. This is not a place for someone who needs instant access to hospitals, schools, or shopping. Every plan must account for emergencies, rising costs, and the possibility that the town may shrink further with time. Tangier Island works for those deeply committed to a way of life, willing to adapt to nature and accepting of uncertainty. For most others, the combination of isolation and environmental change is a challenge few can manage. A quick question: could you live in a place where the land beneath your feet might not exist in 20 years, and leaving means navigating both water and the pull of home? Here, freedom is measured in loyalty, patience, and respect for the land itself. Number 2, Isle Royale, Michigan. Isle Royale, Michigan is a place that feels completely separate from the rest of the world. Thick forests, rugged shorelines, and the silence of untouched wilderness dominate the landscape. For months at a time, the island is empty, because most people leave every winter when weather and ice make travel nearly impossible. At first, the isolation seems peaceful. Imagine waking up to mist over Lake Superior, seeing moose wander nearby, and feeling like you own the world. But that peace comes with rules you don't control. Access is seasonal. Boats and planes operate only when the weather allows. One missed ferry or flight can leave you stranded for days or even weeks until the next opportunity comes. A resident once misjudged the schedule and missed the last transport before winter. They were stuck on the island as temperatures dropped, supplies ran low, and the wind howled across the frozen lake. It's a stark reminder that in places like Isle Royale, leaving isn't just about packing bags. It's about timing, planning, and respect for nature's calendar. Living here works for people who love adventure, self-reliance, and a deep connection to the environment. For anyone who depends on predictable services or quick exits, it's risky. Even routine tasks, getting groceries, medical care, or gas, require foresight and patience. Practical advice. Timing is everything. Every decision about travel or supplies must account for weather, transport schedules, and emergency backups. Isolation isn't optional here. It's built into the rhythm of life. Could you thrive somewhere where the next chance to leave might be weeks away? And survival depends on careful planning, patience, and respect for the forces around you. Number 1. McCarthy, Alaska. McCarthy, Alaska is isolation by design. Nestled in the shadow of massive mountains and glaciers, the town is connected to the rest of the world by a single rough road that can turn impassable with a sudden storm. Every journey in or out requires careful planning, money, and respect for the unpredictable Alaskan weather. At first, the scenery feels magical. Glaciers glint in the sun, rivers rush with clear water, and silence stretches for miles. But beauty doesn't soften the challenges. Geography dictates life here, and the weather decides your schedule. Want to leave? You need to plan weeks ahead. Flights are limited, roads can be blocked, and local infrastructure is minimal. Residents know this instinctively. They schedule trips for supplies, medical appointments, and emergencies far in advance. Even a minor delay can turn into a serious problem. A broken vehicle or sudden illness isn't just inconvenient. It can trap you for days, sometimes weeks, until help arrives. Living in McCarthy works for people who are self-reliant, patient, and prepared for the unexpected. Families, elderly residents, or anyone who depends on frequent access to goods and services may find the isolation overwhelming. Here, staying is easier than leaving, by necessity. Every choice carries weight, and every plan must account for the environment itself. Could you thrive somewhere where freedom comes hand in hand with planning, where every exit requires foresight, money, and patience, and where nature itself enforces isolation? Because in McCarthy, Alaska, that is the reality. Breathtaking beauty, absolute quiet, and isolation that cannot be escaped without careful preparation. Isolation looks like freedom on the surface. Wide open spaces, quiet mornings, no one telling you what to do. But the truth is, it's a negotiation. Every remote town comes with a price. Whether it's distance from hospitals, limited groceries, expensive travel, or weather that can trap you for days. Peace and quiet are real, but they come at the cost of access, safety, and convenience. When you consider moving somewhere remote, remember this rule. Always plan your exit before you arrive. Know how you would leave in an emergency, how to get supplies, and how to handle unexpected situations. The towns we explored show that isolation isn't just about geography. It's about how prepared you are to live with consequences that most people never think about. Think of it like a balance. The more beautiful or peaceful the place, the higher the cost of leaving. Every town had its own lesson. Deserts, islands, mountains, Arctic landscapes, or shrinking populations. Each location tested residents' patience, resilience, and resourcefulness. Some people thrive, others struggle. The difference is preparation and mindset. If this video made you think, hit the like button, comment which town shocked you the most, and share it with friends who dream about escaping to quiet places. And don't forget to subscribe to Mr. State Realities, because every week we uncover stories about places, policies, and lives most people never notice. Next week, we'll explore towns that actually pay you to move, and why many newcomers regret it. Sometimes the hardest part of living remote isn't the work or the weather. It's realizing just how far away help really is. Plan ahead, respect the environment, and remember, freedom in isolation always comes with responsibility.